There was a time when the world was whole, when the world was unbroken, unshattered into countless tiny pieces. There was a time when the world was a circle, and everything flowed smoothly from one place to the next. There were no sides. Time and water and spirit and breath and bodies and energy all poured forwards and backwards in all directions, around and around and around, and every creature was free, yet connected to everything else. Past, present, and future were all there together too. Everything was everywhere with everyone, magically, all at once.
I love climbing trees and getting up high above our neighborhood and seeing the rooftops and fields, and there was a highway in the distance. Some kids still climb trees, but it's not something that is encouraged. It's not something I think that a lot of kids do. When we provide experiences for children in the outdoors and experiences like climbing a tree, we know, and research tells us that children feel a sense of individual achievement and independence. They're happier, they're healthier, and I think they have a greater empathy, not just for nature, but for other people.
Hawk made sure everyone was in their hiding places before she finally went to hers. For hers, she flew higher than she had ever flown before, and with a diving swoop as agile as an arrow and faster than time itself, she flew into the sun at the center of the solar system. She is the keeper of heat, energy, light, and life of the sun itself. She used her ancient wisdom and the moon glow to learn to live peacefully with the solar flames. She is the keeper of all the love universe has ever created.
When we started to look into the park and additional things that we can do to enjoy park, we were also really interested in the sort of confluence of art, outdoors, and individual achievement and personal connection. And on a regular basis, we would see a red-tailed hawk existing in this environment and the tension between nature and city. And I think that really became an inspiration for this project. Everyone started to resonate with the local wildlife in our park and the tension between being in an urban setting and the outdoors. And then that just blossomed into this thing that was the culmination of really beautiful, sensitive, passionate people coming together to make something unique.
Elk hid by becoming the summer sunshine in the golden mountain grass. They are the keepers of the wisdom, beauty, and stories of your antler-like family tree and your herd, traveling together through high mountain meadows and evergreen forests, and all of life's other landscapes. They are the keepers of family.
Before Adventure Forest, if I was thinking about perseverance, I would consider it an intrinsic thing, something that you need to feel 100% solely inside yourself. I think through this project, I've learned that, the strength of your team is a huge component of being able to persevere. I can't look at it without thinking of all the conversations and ideas that went into doing it.
Snake hid by becoming the tracks, trails, and topography that trace and twist across the terrain. They are the keepers of the wisdom of the best ways for creatures and water to travel from here to there, as well as how to tenaciously wiggle out of a hard spot when you feel pinned down in life. They are the keepers of grit.
In Wes's story, the council of creatures meets and man is absent and he has no influence and contributes nothing. In the actual story of Adventure Forest, it was entirely the opposite. There were so many people, hundreds of people, who gave everything they had, showed up 6 or 7 days a week for months and a year, and they didn't stop for rain or snow. There was blistering heat, and they gave every ounce of what they had to make this come to life. In that way, it does resemble Wes's story, because everyone came together and left an imprint of who they were and what they have to offer the world.
Rainbow trout hid by becoming the colorful rainbow that appears after a summer rain and reflected in a mountain stream. They are the keepers of the bright excitement these colors bring as they slide into the world where they're allowed to be themselves. They are the keepers of the wisdom that every living thing is unique and different. They are the keepers of the permission to shift and slide into new versions of ourselves for our whole lives, and to fluidly move from one self to another without judgment. They are the keepers of color.
We had been so embroiled in the details and the problems and solving those things, we forgot to take a moment and look at what was all coming together in front of us. And so one day after Wes had finished his final painting and I had climbed through the structure and I got to the top, and there was just this moment of seeing it all come together and seeing what all the hard work and effort and the struggles had produced. To see it all come together was really powerful. I think it captured, Wes's art in particular captured the spirit of how thin we were stretched and how hard this was to bring to life, and just being up there and seeing it all at once was very moving.
Wild thistle hid by becoming the wandering wind itself. They are the keepers of how to grow lush stories from the hard, dry ground where nothing usually grows. They are the keepers of the Adventure Forest story in its fullness. They are the keepers of how to turn parched earth into royal purple flowers from a single seed, wandering freely from place to place on the invisible story-soaked wind. They are the keepers of story.
So we were at the end of a long day. It had been a lot of rainy days, kind of all in a row, and it's the team of welders that are there. And there's just a quick question about what was going to happen in one of the bulbs, and it just quickly turned into this moment of storytelling because they asked and I started to say it, and it was apparent that they were interested in the story of it. So it's like the work vests and like the thick jackets and the mud-covered boots and the thick leather gloves, and everyone just has like this tough welder vibe. And we were all kind of gathered, you know, people are perched on the stairs, people are like hanging over the railing, another person is like looking up the ship's ladder, and it's just raw steel everywhere, like just this really raw otherworldly spot with all these really tough human beings listening to a story like they're in kindergarten almost. Like I'm literally telling a story about a red-tailed hawk flying through these made-up worlds and talking to other animals and talking to humans. And it was this really unexpected like pairing of two things with this raw steel bad weather toughness with a story. And it really was like this seed planted into the ground at that moment that unexpectedly could flourish in that.
Blue spruce hid by becoming the bright blue sky. They are the keepers of today and how to be fully present right where you are. They are the keepers of deep breathing and resting. They are the keepers of close observation, sharp attention, and mindfulness. They are the keepers of awareness.
I was inspired by the hawk that lives in Joy Park and created this story centered around an ancient society of birds that eventually served as a starting point for Wes. It was something I saw so clearly in my mind, and the idea of sharing that vision with others was intimidating. It was a vulnerable place to be, but Adventure Forest would not be what it is today without overcoming those feelings.
Touching wingtip to paw, to tree branch to claw, to antler to leaf, to flower to beak, to feather to finger, their circle was whole and unbroken and unshattered, and all the children led the chorus of the Fire Trust, and they all began to sing their new agreement, starting with that first same sweet line of poetry. We are alive in a living world.